Welcome back. What we're going to do in this one is to have a look at some of the little jobs we've got left to do on the BMW. So this is a bit of a crossover video. So there's going to be stuff on this and on the XT500 because I've ordered some extra parts for this. Is the one that we've sold. So I've got some new levers because these ones aren't standard and they're a little too short, and also curvature is wrong on them. So they bottom out before they've actually actuated, especially on the clutch. I've put some mirrors onto this that I had that actually came with this, but I've also got to look at some of the wiring as well, because there is a little issue with the brake light, in as much as when the headlights are on it dims rather than becomes brighter, so there's probably an earthing issue going on somewhere within that. And I've also bought a new neutral light switch for this as well, so I'll fit that, or first of all clean off the old one. They do get dirty. So I'll give that a good old clean and then make sure that that's working properly. So loads of odd jobs for the buyer on this one. And also I've got a lock for, which side does the lock go? I've forgotten. For one side or the other on the side covers as well, because this has currently just got a nut and bolt on it as well. So it's on the other side because I can see this one's got the proper screw that I've fitted. So first job on the BMW is we did some work you might have seen in the previous video to get the tank cover or tank filler cap off. It was corroded in. There was loads of corrosion around this. There was no way that was going to come out just using kind of the force of this lever, and if you had tried with that you would have broken something. And I explained in the previous video how this actually works once I'd got it apart, because this is a push fit over, so alley to alley by the look of it, push fit over the top of that, or alley to steel over the top of that actual screw cap. So I managed to prise it off, which then gives you access to, is the right way around, the lock. And the way the lock works on this, so people say, oh, there's a ratchet in there. It's not a ratchet at all. All it is when you turn the key, this black peg goes in or out. So effectively the locked position is with that peg in, because then what it'll do is spin within those, as you see there, it fits into that slot, so it will spin within that whole central piece, not clicking out into a slot. As soon as you unlock it, that black peg will come out into one of those slots like that, and when you turn the cap that's fitted on the top, yep, it'll undo the whole thing. Yep, that's how that works. So what I'm going to do with this, it's got some cracking on it. Now, I would advise anybody that buys this not to use this, because this essentially is going to do the same thing over time. If you don't use the bike very often, this is just going to corrode again into the tank and you'll be in the same situation. I've put some grease around it anyway, but I'll advise the next owner, don't lock it. I mean, how often is somebody going to, these days, come and try and siphon some fuel out of your bike? And if you've got a bike like this, it's probably stored away anyway. And if you're out and about on it, you're going to be back within 5 minutes. So my advice is don't actually use this lock. But I'm going to clean it up anyway, because there's lots of oil around this, and you can see there's a little bit of cracking. And then I'm going to actually treat this cracking so that it doesn't get any worse with a little bit of super glue and baking soda, which kind of goes rock solid in an instant. So let's just clean out the oil, get that as a good surface, drop a super glue and sprinkle a baking soda, or baking soda first actually, into the crack, drop the super glue into it, and it goes solid, and that'll fix this. It will solid this up again. So that's that, and I'm going to do that now. Clean this up first. So first of all, I'm going to do a bit of cleaning of this. This is just brake cleaner, just to try and get some of this grease out, and I'll give the glue at least half a chance. So I'm not quite sure how much I'm going to get into this, in those cracks, but we'll kind of put some in the bottom there, and then use an old brush try and get into those cracked plastic bits there. So I'm guessing that's all fractured where somebody has followed the ill advice that you find online about sticking a belt across under that and trying to turn it and pull it, because all you're doing is pulling on this small bit of plastic when you're trying to turn it as well. So that is probably just going to crack open. As you can see, if I push sideways on that, that's just going to crack open this piece here. So we've got a bit of cleaner in there. Let's give it another kind of rinse through now. Get some of that out. And then next step, what we'll do is just try and open up that crack. There we go, like that. And drop a bit of super glue and baking soda down there. So at least we've got something that's a bit more rigid. And then if it's slightly proud, because this is going to be a tight fit into this unit, then we'll just file it off with a small little rat tail file. But as long as it's kind of structurally sound, as I said, I'm not going to recommend that anybody uses the key on this. Again, it's not the best design the way this is done. So on the bottom crack, there was a high chance that by putting some of the glue within this crack here and closing it up, that was actually going to stick it to the black kind of push button there. So what I've done is slid a bit of card into that, and we'll now put a bit of glue and such like into there and hold that together. So there is a small amount of bicarb that I've dropped into the crack. Let's get rid of the excess because I don't want too much of this around after the fact. And then the theory is, I know the bicarb is going to take up a bit of the space in there, but we'll put a little drip of glue in there and then push that together kind of at the same time, because it sets pretty quickly when you're using bicarb. So a little drop of glue, push it together. Now, I probably won't get the paper out again, but that's kind of insignificant. I just didn't want to end up gluing the black kind of actuating mechanism together. So let's give that a good 30 odd seconds. Fast forward in the video. Just pushing in the black bit there as well to make sure it still moves, which it does. It was a little bit stuck when I first pushed it there. Okay, I doubt the paper will come out. No, it won't. So that's initially dry. I'm going to let go and let the pressure off and just see if this comes apart. No, it doesn't. And I'll give the paper or card a try, see if it comes out. Don't think it will. No, so we'll just cut that off. But at least now the black button isn't stuck to the bottom of the plastic. Okay. And then we've got a couple of other cracks that I'm just going to lay some glue onto around these ones to strengthen, and hopefully it will seep into it, and any residual on the outside I will sand off. That's it. Let's just see if we can get a little bit of a level on it at least. There. And now we'll just let that dry properly. Right, the glue is dried. We'll drop that back in. The little peg still actuates, it's not stuck by the glue. Drop it back into the unit that threads into the tank. And then in here we've got a slot either side which fits over these two here. So we just got to get that lined up. Probably would have been better to drop that into here first, actually. There we go. And then offer that up. There we go. Right, and then this now is a push fit back into that upper cap. So probably need to tap it down. Oh no, fingers, thumbs, there we go. No, we need to get it straight. So what we'll do, let's just put a little bit of a pad under that and we'll tap that down. Okay, got the wrong hammer, but hey. Nope, still up a bit on one side. No, still needs to go level. What the best bet might be is to squeeze that in the vise so it's a firm fit. Let's put a piece of wood over that to keep it that we hit kind of level, and see if we can get it, because it's popping in one side and coming out the other as I hit it. So let's see if we can get. There we go. That's in. And as you can see, that should be like a loose fit within there, because that top needs, if you are actuating the key, needs to spin on that. but we've got it over that lip. It's now seated back in. Yeah, you can see. So now, if that was done up tight, you can see, and I set the key so that it was locked effectively, then that would just spin on the top of that unit. But now it's set to unlocked, meaning that the peg is out into that lower piece. So when I undo this, it's going to turn everything like that. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, job done. We'll put that back on the bike. Put a bit more grease just around this, so we don't want that rusting up again. Now we're going to do a bit more work on the Yamaha that you've seen in previous videos. This is going out to a customer soon. So there's a couple of more jobs that I wanted to get done on it as well. And in the last video, you would have seen that I made up an engine bolt for it. Just one of the lower engine bolts was missing. I've now got hold of an original kind of proper engine bolt for it. So we'll put that in, replace the one that I made up for it. And then also what I've got is some new levers. These are too short and there's too much of a angle on that lever as well. So when you pull that in, especially on the clutch, then this bit here touches the part of the grip, because these are not designed for this bike. They curve in far too much at that point. The later levers do have that curve on them, but not as much as these are. I'm not quite sure what these are off, but I've got some new levers to go on this, so we'll fit those now and sort out the engine bolt. And then I've got to look at a little problem with the electrics as well, which I'll talk over in a minute. So I got these levers from Yambits. Not sponsored by them, but they seem to be really good at, well, stock-wise, they seem to have most of the small ancillary bits that you need, and also delivery. 2 days, less than, I think it was. I can't remember when I ordered them. And I've also got new pivot bolts. And then something I ordered from Rex's, which seems to have come from Kido. So I think they just supply in from there, is a new, in here, let's get this open. This is the side panel lock. So there we go, new side panel lock. I think I just need the rubber for that, which I've got here somewhere. And that's it for the moment. So we'll get those fitted and then look into the electrics. Right, back on the XT. Now I had a bit of an issue, it seemed, that had arisen, where it would just cut out for no reason. It did it at me at the show, and I thought, oh, it's just run out of fuel. But then I checked the tank. There was plenty in the tank, and I also checked the fuel feed as well from the petcock, ample coming through. But it kind of had all the symptoms of just like float bowl emptied out, wait a sec, kick it over, it would start again, as if there was a trickle feed to the float bowl, in that it was refilling after it had emptied and stopped, and then would go again, and then it would stop again. But the fuel flow seemed fine. So just by coincidence, I kind of pulled on, this is my points wire, my ignition wire, and it cut out. Same symptom. But if it was a fuel one, it would have been a bit more of a splutter before it went. This one was a bit more definitive. So I pulled on that and then thought, okay, we've got a bad connection. And then what I noticed, and if you can see, just let's try and get it into view, down the back there, that's the wire. Ouch, exhaust is hot. You can see it's melted. It was against the exhaust. So that means if it's against the exhaust and it's melted, it's causing a short. So need to replace that wire and give it a bit more length. And it looks like the routing's a bit odd as well. Underneath that pipe is also tight. So new wire coming out from the points. But yeah, problem solved. And now it hold that away from that exhaust, and this runs perfectly well. Back on the XT500, new clutch lever fitted, and what I'm doing, I'm just waiting for a new the assembly part, the bit that the carrier basically for the brake lever, because this looks to be the wrong aftermarket part. The holder here for the brake light switch is incorrect, so I've got a brake light switch for this, but yeah, this isn't the right fitment for it. So when that arrives, I'll get this lever fitted onto there for the brake. And then if we just go down to this side, what I'm doing at the moment on this was, I think I showed yesterday, where the ignition cable was touching the exhaust and causing a short because it had melted through the outer. So what I'm doing, I'm just making up a new cable for this. So I've already crimped on a new spade connector, which is going to be the fit onto here. I'm going to run this cable up. It's long enough now to be able to pass and clip away from the exhaust when it runs up into the loom. So we'll fit that now, and that will solve the intermittent cutout problem that we were having with it. That wasn't even fitted on there particularly well. It was supposed to be clamped underneath of that, and all that was pushed onto the nut on top. So not even a good fitment of the original. So what I need to do is just cut off this end, because I need that rubber grommet which fits into the casing. We'll feed that onto the new cable. So there's a flat side and a curved side, so I want flat side out. So let's get that. It doesn't really matter, we think we can twist it when it's in there. In there. And what we'll do is we'll just get this placed underneath that screw head, which is where we need that to be. Okay, that's just in there loosely for the moment, and I'll do that up in a minute. We'll feed the cable round and fit that rubber grommet into the case. There we go. I'll come back to that in a minute, and then run this cable up. There should be a clip somewhere. I'll see if I've got one that I can put onto one of these engine case bolts, so that I can run this up to this other cable and join it on and keep it away from the exhaust. Okay, slight change of plan. I didn't like the blue cable running up the outside of the engine, so I've got some black which I will put a new end piece on. All I'm doing to create this, because you don't really want to be undoing all of these, this is actually kind of a push-on, like crab claw connector that's on there. So I'm just taking a ring connector, and what you do is just a little clip with the you go there, and there we go. We've now got a connector that will fit over that small screw. So I'll just crimp this on and put a little sheath on it to stop it connecting on the inside there. There we go, done. New connector on that, so I'll just get that under there now. That's on, and as I say, we'll tighten that up in a minute. get the little rubber grommet back on. There we go. Okay, now we'll run this up round the casing, and I think we'll make up a suitable clip for this to go on one of these bolts, probably that one there. So I'll just go and make that and come back to you. Right, I've actually found one in my box of parts, so we'll put that on there. There we go, and that will now hold that away from the exhaust at that point, and then we'll run the cable up again away from the exhaust round the back here. Just on this side, what we'll do is crimp on the bullet connector on the wire coming out of the loom. There we go. Put the cover over that, and then on the end of the new wire, just strip a little bit of that. There we go. Cover on female side of the bullet. Okay, slide that on, connect the two. There we go. And we'll tidy up the wire in a minute. We've got a fair bit of slack, so I'll pull that all up into the loom here. Okay, that should solve our intermittent ignition problem. So let's give it a go. There should be enough fuel in the float bowls. I'll tank off. I haven't put an auxiliary on it. Top dead centre, decomp. Yep, ignition all okay at the moment. So once we've got it back together, we'll kind of leave it running a bit longer just to see if it does cut out again. But I think that's solved the issue. Still on the XT500, the next job I'm going to tackle is on the seat base. I already made some brackets for these, but in this side, this one that I've got a load of WD-40 in, the bolt had sheared off. There's like a captive nut within the seat base. So what I'm going to do on this one is small pilot hole and then try with an easy out and see if it comes out. If it doesn't want to budge, then we're kind of a bit stuck that I'm going to have to just tap the captive nut out. I think it's plastic wrapped over the other side, so it might be a bit of a problem getting it out, but then it will just be a simple kind of nut and bolt under the foam. So I've got the edge of it free here, but we'll see if we can get this out first so we can get another bolt into there. So I've got a small easy out, and the way these work is like a reverse thread. So as you're actually threading that into the hole, it's actually pulling the or turning the nut out. I've got a feeling, oh no, it's just about to pick up. I can feel it just trying to pick up. So what we do, we just put that into the T-bar. So I might have to go for a slightly bigger hole on this. Yeah, bigger hole needed, because that's not really properly picking up on that. So we'll step up on the drill size. Okay. Let's see if this, yeah, we've gone a little bit too big now. What I'm going to do is just keep drilling that out, actually, because I've had success with this before. We're just drilling out and keeping away from the threads. The easy out wasn't a great success. With the larger one, it kind of just tightened up in there and just didn't want to let go. So I carried on drilling, put a 5mm thread, because now it's a 6mm bolt in there, and got the last, as you can see, of the knackered bolt out, this piece here. So what I'm just doing now is just running a clean up through. Right, there we go, with a bit of pressure on the cutter, push it through. We seem to have got all the way through now. There we go, just run that back up. Let's see if we've got a, yeah, okay, this is a 6mm. There we go. The captive nut is loose in there, but that's a tight fit into that nut. There we go. Bracket back on. Right, last jobs to do on the XT. So I've bought a new brake lever assembly, and I did actually just buy the plain lever for the older style. The older style are straighter, more like this than with a kink. The later models had the kink in it, but this is even incorrect, because this is a short lever, and this part of the lever here touches home on the bars before it needs to, especially on the clutch. I've already changed that one. But also this bracket here, the fitment for the brake light switch here is incorrect. You can't actually get a standard XT500 brake light switch into that. I think this is a Honda piece, where you kind of feed the switch in from the other side, whereas on the XT it looks as though it kind of clips in, and this is the new one, it clips in from the external side. But this is the whole new assembly with lever, as you can see, completely different for the older style. Then once I've got that in and the switch fitted, I need to take the bowl apart and trace where that brake light cable needs to go. I'm fairly sure I labelled it up in here when I did all the wiring. I think it might be a grey wire or something that's in that bowl. So when I take that apart, let's find where that is. We'll test that it operates the brake light by getting a battery hooked up to it before we kind of connect all the switch up, just to make sure that the wiring to it is actually correct as well. So that's those jobs. And then once I'm done on those, I'm going to move back onto the BMW. I've got the screen to fit on this, and then the cap you saw earlier in the video, get that back in, and then a little bit of paint work to do, or lacquer. I'm trying to decide what I do with the tops of these to stop them rusting again. I could just wax them actually, but I'll think about that. I've seen others that have painted them red. I don't like that at all. Might just do them in black, and that's nearly it, I think, on the BMW. Screen and little odds and sods. So looks like I labelled it up when I did this before. So yeah, marked as brake light switch. So I've got to work out how to do those connections, and then also got to release. There we go. I think there's the connector. There we go. The connector for the kill switch. So because give me the space on the lever to get that off. Go just about with the other cables. Get this off. Okay. Let's give that a bit of a clean. Here we go. And then also a bit of grease on there. There we go. And then the new lever. Now these are a cast item, so you don't want to be doing this bolt up too much, otherwise you're going to fracture this. So just enough to pinch it up. So I'm not going to do it up just yet because I've got to get cable and everything fitted into this as well, so I might need a little bit of space and movement. But let's get this back on. There we go. Get the how far on that needs to go. That's at its end there, and do that back up for the moment. Very roughly where I need the cables on angles, but we can alter that later. Okay, so unhook bolt out so I can get the lever out and put the cable back into it. So the bolts on these are always stepped. This bit here fits in the lever and stops it wobbling around. So this isn't just a straight bolt that fits through as if it was threaded the whole distance, 6mm bolt with a shoulder on it that fits into the lever and stops the lever moving around. So can't just put a normal 6mm bolt in there. So let's get, first of all, the ferrule. Let's get this the right way around. There we go. Right, in there. Line up the slot and feed this through. There we go. That into there. Lever into there. Pivot bolt back in. Now nip that up slightly, and then we've got shake-proof washer and nut underneath. Which will just pinch up. There. Okay. And we'll get the adjustment right later. Back to brake light cable. Let's just get the end off the outer, because what I want to do is prove that this is actually working as a brake light cable, and then we'll put a proper connector on it later. Okay. So we'll need a little crocodile clip cable attached to that. Okay, and let's work out how that works. As I said a little earlier, I've got a wire marked up here as brake switch. So what this actually is the feed wire for the positive, or the power, basically to the rear light. The rear light is earthed in its own right in the unit, and I've actually put an extra earthing cable in just to make sure at the rear light. So what the switch is going to do, it's the interruption within the power source, so the on-off literally. So the power source to the switch when the ignition is on needs to be continuous. So I needed to find within here which of these was the continuous power source when the ignition is on. Not one that runs to the front light, because obviously if you switch the front light on, it's going to feed the power source to those with the on of the front light. So what I've discovered is that this little maze of solder within here is actually a continuous power feed. So I've got my meter connected up to an earth, actually the wrong way around at the moment, as you'll see. It goes negative on the unit, and what we'll do, we just hold that on that connection and then on with the power. There we go, we've got just over 7 volts running on that at the moment. So that feed there is one that I can use as the continuous power when the bike is switched on. I need to make this connection a little bit more user-friendly rather than soldered together, so that we can at least take it apart if should any of this need to come apart in the headlight bulb. So I'm going to take this apart and use a connector of some sort that's basically going to be a 2 into 2, to connect the brake light wire, to that little group there. So I've tapped into the continuous power feed, cut that off, put a double connector onto it, put a bullet connector onto the 2 that it was originally feeding. This now is one of my brake light switch wires, and this is my outgoing brake light switch wire, which heads into my brake light feed. So now the switch isn't on actually connected to the lever at the moment, but at the rear we're switched on, and if I push that in, which is effectively the off position, there I'm holding that in, come out, and we've got brake light. So back in. So brake light is now working off of the front lever as well, with new switch, new levers, and we'll just get that buttoned up and finished. That's enough on the XT for the moment. Back on the BMW, what we've got here is the R100RS Motorsport. So you saw earlier where I did fix on the cap, because that originally had rusted into the tank. So I managed to prise the top off, fix the key, although we're not going to use that again. This is just a thread fit into here, and the key is set in the unlocked position. If you saw earlier, you'd understand what that is. Not going to do that up too tight, just simple little where it is. Don't want that corroding into place again. I've put some grease around the threads. So next job is get the screen back on, so I'm going to give this a bit of a clean. There's myriad of bolts to go around this, and a couple which actually fix the mirrors in place, so on the side lugs there. So we'll get those on, and that's nearly done. As I think I said earlier, I'm going to do a little bit of paint work just to tidy up a few little issues on it. I need a battery for this as well, and they are huge, so I need to measure the size to fit that in, and we'll get it all going again either later in the week, which might be a separate video by then. I don't want to delay in putting this one up because I've got to wait for the battery to arrive, but yeah, stay tuned. And there we go, looking back in one piece. One last job on the bike is, as you can see, it's got a set of pannier racks on it. Look like originals, good condition chrome, but I didn't have any panniers. I was at one of the auto jumbles just having a bit of a mooch around and stumbled across a set of Grouser luggage. Now, this set of luggage came without keys. It was like fully locked. You could open the latches on it, but you can't actually open the luggage itself. So just by chance, I was looking through some of my keys. I tried loads of other options. They had a marking of 809 on them, and you get a lot of crap said about Grouser luggage. Oh, you can use any key across any case. It's crap. You can't. Okay, there's obviously specific key designs with the slots in the keys that fit into the tumbler, and then therefore the cut on this is what actuates the rest of the tumbler. So, you know, if you've got one that's a straight edge down one side, kind of like that kind of key, that's never going to fit in this lock. It needs one that is cut both sides, kind of central positioning. And in amongst all of my hundreds of keys, I found one that it slipped straight in. Doesn't turn though. Interestingly, the number on it was 847. So kind of in the same range, 809, 847, fits in, you know, slides straight in. So on this key, it's marked LF, England. Now that's actually a particular manufacturer. So with a bit of research, I looked into and found Lowe and Fletcher is what the L and F stands for. So I went to, it's actually Fast Keys, and you can put in your search by key number, and it comes up with the blank that you need for that particular range by L and F. So as I said, I've already proved that fits in the lock. So I ordered a couple of L and F Lowe and Fletcher 809 keys, and this is one of them here. Okay, so, and that was from Fast Keys. I'm not sponsored by them, but that came through, or pair of keys, 24 hours. And as you can see, you might be able to see if you zoom in on that, that is, for those keys, it's not particularly this one over here, £2.74 excluding VAT. Unless I want 100 or more, don't really want one of those. But so, new key, excuse the light in here, perfect fit into the lock and twist, result. So now, perfect fit into the lock, twist, and now I can get these open. So what a result. That was a cheap set of luggage in really good condition, nothing broken on them, they were just locked. And for £5, 2 keys, just over 5, now perfectly functioning bit of kit. Right, it's just starting to rain, but we'll do a walk around of this and get it covered over. So there we go, all back together, BMW R100RS Motorsport. And now we've got some luggage fitted. So looking the part as a touring machine. But getting wet, so I won't do this for too long. So fairing all back together with the screen on. And this is now going to come up for sale. So express your interest in the comments if you are. And if you are international, we can sort out some shipping for you as well, and get that all done. So yeah, just let us know if you're interested. If you look at one of the previous videos, you'll see it all running. I'm not going to get it fired up at the moment. I haven't got a battery in it just yet. I was connecting it to one of my other vehicles to get it going before. But there you go. A lovely bike for somebody.